Hey, shalom, shalom, shalom. This is Naaman with the Great Millstone Camp here in DC. Back for another video. First and foremost, call all Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rekah HaKodash. And of course, once again, double honors go out to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Salutations also go out to the fellow Akim that are out there on the highways and byways, pushing the truth across the four corners of this earth, aided, of course, by the numerous amounts of videos that are posted daily. All right. Our main objective in that is that these are for edification for the hopeful elect of our people. All right. And as we're commanded to do, be out there on the highways and byways. All right. And if anybody has any questions as to what we do, I mean, it's up to you to ask those questions. We can't read anybody's minds, but that's the only way you're going to learn anything. Ask questions, all right? But we realize that only a select few, as it were, are going to take advantage of this. But we do it because we're commanded to do it, all right? So, as per Ezekiel 2nd and 3rd chapters, all right? So it's to get that blood off our hands, all right? We've done, again, what we were commanded to do. We are the watchmen that were set up, all right, to inform our people. But, hey, too many of our people take it as a joke. And we realize that. But, again, that's on you. All right, here's the copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statutes that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. All right, once again, fair use, fair use, fair use. All right, so it dawned on me, I remember mentioning at camp about a couple of books that I had downloaded via PDF, which is what I try to do first before I buy anything. Hey, if it's free, it's free. And it had to do with the U.S.-Israeli relations, and it's apparent that this is only a one-way relationship. And I thought to myself, I said, well, in light of recent events, and I'm talking about the last 20 years when I say recent, how there's many examples of the Israelis just fucking over America. All right, and we tried to warn people that, hey, Jeremiah 49 and 20 is real. The least of the flock is going to draw them out. And sure enough, the U.S. attacked Iran. It was a preeminent strike, or preemptive. I said preeminent, preemptive strike, Salakia. All right, like a just in case. What kind of shit is that? All right, so whatever these devils have on America, it's got to be, oh boy, But I just had just go over in summary about one. Is two books. The first one is called By the Way of Deception, and the second one is The Other Side of Deception, and they're both written by this guy named Victor Ostrovsky. He was a handler, if you ever heard that term, in the Mossad, Israeli agency there, the Mossad. And let's just go over them real quick. Let's see, which one did I have first? All right, it says here's a focused breakdown of it's by way of deception. I said by the way of deception. By way of deception, the making and unmaking of a Mossad officer. All right, with the main dates and the book's central examples of treachery. All right, and I asked, my dear old friend Chat GPT to give just examples instead of just going over the book chapter by chapter as a, just summary. All right, it says the book is Victor Ostrovsky's controversial memoir expose of his time in the Mossad, and its strongest allegations center on deception, withheld warnings, and internal scapegoating. Boy, it's like that expression comes to mind. It says, with friends like this, who needs enemies? And hopefully you'll get that that idea yourself after we get through here. It says core timeline. It says January 83. Ostrovsky says he was selected for Mossad service and became a Ketsa, which is a case officer, a handler. All right, after earlier service in the Israeli Defense Forces and other military branches. 1971 to 1985, the book's second half surveys covert operations in this period according to the summary on the book's page. 1983, one of the book's most serious claims is tied to the Beirut bombing. Listen to this. Ostrovsky says Mossad had advanced knowledge of the attack but passed only vague warning information to the United States. 241 Marines, if I'm not mistaken, all right, were killed. All right. 1981, the book describes Operation Sphinx, involving Iraqi nuclear scientists in France and intelligence connected to the Asarak reactor, which was later destroyed by an Israeli airstrike. 1990, Israel sought to stop publication through a court injunction in the U.S. and Canada, but the injunction was quickly overturned, turning the book into a bestseller. All right. Main examples of treachery, which is the question that I asked. It says withholding warning about Beirut. We just went over that. All right. It says Mossad knew enough about the truck bombing threat in Beirut to identify likely targets, but chose not to pass the full details to U.S. officials. Look at that. It says scapegoating inside Mossad. The book says Ostrovsky was dismissed after a failed PLO capture operation and claims he was made the fall guy for the failure. Of course. Manipulative tradecraft. The first half of the book presents Mossad methods such as covert identities, surveillance evasion, and bugging, framing deception itself as institutional practice rather than an exception. Secretive foreign influence. The work alleges clandestine operations beyond Israel. So the Mossad is the equivalent of America's CIA. All right, and they do work hand in hand. It says the work alleges clandestine operations beyond Israel, including a covert espionage team in the U.S. and other actions that blur the line between intelligence work and manipulation. Aha! Moral collapse as a theme. Ostrovsky describes the agency as driven by twisted ideals, self-centered pragmatism, greed, lust, and disregard for human life, making betrayal a recurring institutional pattern. How about that? All right. Thieves, murders, and whatever else. Wow, who would believe they can't get along with each other? Wow. It says why the book mattered, or even trust one another. It says the book became notable not only for its allegations, but also because Israel tried to block its publication, which intensified public attention and made it a bestseller. In other words, the treachery in the book is not just personal betrayal. It is presented as a system of secrecy, selective truth, and strategic deception. If you want, it says chapter by chapter breakdown. All right, here's a detailed chapter level outline with key dates and treachery examples from by way of deception. It says Operation Sphinx, August 1978. Mossad recruits Iraqi nuclear scientist Boutros Ibn Halim in Paris using a blonde decoy and a recruiter named Donovan driving a red Ferrari. June 7, 1981, Israeli fighters destroy the Iraqi nuclear complex at Tammuz Asarak reactor, the culmination of a multi-year intelligence operation. Treachery example, Halim is manipulated through staged encounters, friendship, and psychological pressure. He betrays his country without realizing he's being recruited until deeply compromised. And you have to know that all countries to some level do this. All right, but this right here with these Israelis, you knowing their history and just how, well, we'll get to it. There's a time period I want everybody to focus on as we go over it, and that's right after World War II. It says chapters 1 and 3, early life and first Mossad contact. It says May 77, Ostrovsky returns to Israel after living in Canada. Late 70s, he is first approached for a Mossad position involving overseas work. He refuses when he learns it's with the assassination unit. All right. October 82, Ostrovsky is contacted again, and this time accepts a trainee CATSA, or case officer, as a handler. It says 3 years of training. It says these chapters 4 through 10, detail Mossad's training academy and methods, psychological conditioning. Trainees undergo stress tests, polygraphs, and indoctrination to build loyalty and desensitize them to moral boundaries. Surveillance and cover identities, extensive training in deception, forged documents, surveillance evasion, and motionless following. Use of, Sayanim, Jewish volunteers worldwide who provide logistical support, safe houses, documents without being formal agents. See that? All right. Sexual exploitation. Training normalizes using sex for recruitment and blackmail. The book describes widespread affairs among staff and manipulation of targets' vulnerabilities. Treachery example. The Academy teaches that deception is not just a tactic, but an institutional ethic. By way of deception, thou shalt do war. That's the other half of that. All right. Let's see. Active service and resignation. The botched operation. 1985-86. Ostrovsky participates in a failed operation, likely a PLO-related mission. His warnings are ignored, and he is made the scapegoat. Treachery example. After the failure, Mossad forces him to resign and immediately assigns him to frontline military duty, essentially a death sentence, prompting his flight from Israel. So they tried to set him up to, according to this, to get rid of him. All right. Let's see. Much like a king of ours did, right? Mossad Operations, 1971-85. The second half of the book is organized around specific covert operations. All right, this is early 70s, Black September retaliation. That was after a result of the 72 Olympics, and I think it was it in Munich? Or was it in Berlin? Where was it? It was in Germany. It says targeted assassinations and psychological warfare against terrorists responsible for the Munich, okay. Massacre. It says foiled Strela missile attack. Mossad prevents a planned surface-to-air missile attack on Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir. All right. Treachery example. Kidon assassination teams are trained to shoot any bystander who interferes, treating human life as expendable. Remember, part of the training as you go up here is to desensitize them. Hold on. This is psychological conditioning. Trainees undergo stress tests, polygraphs, and indoctrination to build loyalty and desensitize them to moral boundaries. This is a moral boundary down here. All right. All right. Treating life as expendable. Tracking Arafat and sabotaging peace. 70s through the 80s. This is Mossad recruits Yasser Arafat's driver and bodyguard to track the PLO leader. U.S. peace negotiations. Mossad intervenes in secret UN negotiations, leading to the sudden resignation of U.S. Ambassador Andrew Young, and derailing his career. See? Treachery example. Deliberately sabotaging peace efforts. All right. And we just used a prime example of that with Andrew Young. Beirut bombing, October 23rd, 1983, suicide bombing of U.S. Marine compound in Beirut kills 241 Marines and 58 French troops. All right. It says Ostrovsky alleges Mossad had advanced intelligence on the time and location, but shared only vague warnings with the U.S., withholding specifics that could have prevented the attack. How about that? When we talk about manipulation, that's what we're talking about. All right, they knew this, but they wanted the U.S. to get involved, like so many other instances in history. All right. If they didn't do it themselves, they knew it, had foreknowledge, and just held back that knowledge. All right. It says arms trafficking and criminal operations. Mossad, and this is the 80s, Mossad obtains a French Exocet missile from providing training to Chilean secret police under Pinochet. Ongoing, it says drug trafficking in Thailand and South America under DEA's nose, forging Jordanian dinars currency, selling drop tanks to Saudi Arabia at inflated prices through front companies. These motherfuckers are just wicked, man. It says construction sabotage. This is fucked up. Israeli construction firm Solel Bana, a Mossad front, builds infrastructure in the third world with remotely detonatable explosives concealed in concrete, so they can blow the buildings up. And these some sick motherfuckers, man. Just wicked, not sick. I'm not giving them a medical excuse. They're just evil. Treachery, all right. It's a systematic criminal enterprise masquerading as intelligence work. Recruitment operations in hostile countries. 70s and 80s detailed accounts of recruiting agents in Syria and Libya using blackmail, sexual compromise, money, and psychological manipulation. All right, exploiting personal vulnerabilities without regard for the recruited individuals' safety or lives. That shouldn't surprise anyone. All right. If you ever had any doubt or wanted to reason why the Most High hates Edom, it's shit like this. Oh, and there's many more. But this is why. What did they do here in America when it concerned Jake's history here? Oh, that's critical race theory. That shouldn't be taught in school. Why? It's history. It's actual factual history. But no, it sheds a bad light on them, and they don't want that. How twisted and wicked do you have to be in order to try to sweep under the rug actual history because you want to protect little Timmy and Tabitha or whatever? All right, you want to protect their feelings. No, fuck their feelings. All right. And what's happening now is all this is coming to a head. All right, because Jake here in the States has come to the point that they're tired of this political system. And again, these people are around the world are bringing this to the attention. And you can't run and hide from this, America. Now, America, specifically, but Edom in general, your history, all right, speaks for itself. And look at these people, these pretenders, saying that they're the chosen. Well, certainly not by the God of the Israelites, they're not. You were set up to do what you're doing. And this is teaching the Israelites just what evil is. You had no idea how good, or we had no idea how good we had it. We had to experience this. Everything was taking us. Jeremiah 17:4 goes into that. All right, because Israel time and time again. Kept going off. Prayed to the Most High for deliverance. Go off again. On and on and on until finally, hey, it tells you in as part of the curses, let's get that he was going to send a nation, all right, such as who we're under now. Let's see, hold on. So let's go to Deuteronomy 28. I think it's 46, 47. Hold on. Now, of course, 1 through 15 here in Deuteronomy 28 tells you, well, 14 really, tells you that, if you obey me, it says you shall hearken diligently unto the voice of the Most High, whose name is Yahweh, by the way, our God, that all these blessings will come upon us, all right? But in 15 it tells you, well, if you do not obey, then from 16 on down to 68, all these curses will be put upon you. And sure enough, guess what happened? And these goes to identify who's who too, and it tells you here in 45. All right, let's see. This is a clue here. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. All these people that set up shop in our hood, of course, being allowed to do so by our main enemy, the Edomite, the self-professed white man. 44, he shall lend to thee, all right, but thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. And you just know that these small hats are also behind the scenes manipulating all this. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not, all right, unto the voice of the Most High Yahweh thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. This is why we're going through what we're going through. All right, but at that same time, all right, our main enemy's dealings, his treachery is all being exposed. All right. 2 Thessalonians 2nd chapter, the man of sin is being revealed. It says, and they shall be upon thee for a sign, these curses, all right, no matter wherever we go, and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever, because thou servest not the Most High thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things. Therefore thou shalt serve thine enemies. All right, that's 48. Hold on, it's 49. I remember it now. Thou shalt serve thine enemies, which the Most High shall send against thee in hunger. In thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. The Most High shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle. Oh, that's a big clue. All right, whose symbol has always been the eagle, the Edomite. When you look at those carvings of the caves and Petra, all right, what do you see at the top of those eagles? It says, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. All right, so that's these, and it tells you in the Maccabees. All right, it goes from first chapter, very first chapter. All right, it goes into when these people took over in Greece, from the Macedonians on, wickedness increased in the earth. What is that telling you? All right, let's see, let's go on back. Let's finish this out. All right, it said mid-80s. All right, let's see. Mossad withholds information on the whereabouts of American hostages in Lebanon, enabling the condition that led to the Iran-Contra scandal. All right, manipulating U.S. policy for Israeli strategic advantage. And yet, these are your so-called friends. Operation Moses, covert rescue of Ethiopian Jews from Sudan using a fake diving resort as cover for airlifts. This operation is presented as a rare example of humanitarian work, contrasting with this book's darker revelations. Institutional treachery themes. Throughout the book, Ostrovsky describes systemic betrayal. Moral collapse. The agency operates with twisted ideals, greed, lust for power, and self-centered pragmatism. No accountability. It says Mossad functions as a loose cannon with malice aforethought, with minimal oversight. Sexual politics. All right. Virtually everyone was tied to everyone else by sex. Secretaries selected for looks serve as hand-me-downs passed between officers. Betrayal of allies, routine manipulation and deception targeting friendly nations, especially the United States. And if it's true, I have it somewhere. There is a recording of back in 90 or 91 of Netanyahu on record stating that it's the intention of Israel is to destroy the United States very slowly. This is I wish I had thought to pull it up. Yeah, this is what we do to countries that we hate. So you stupid ass white nationalist Christians, all right, they're just slow stroking you. They always have. They've never liked you. You are an ends to a means. That's all. All right. You know, and at this point, especially since the Charlie Cook, actually before then, and actuality, that was Kirk's warning to Netanyahu months before he was killed that, all right, you're getting slaughtered in the realm of social media. And he was starting to lean away from supporting Netanyahu, you know, and you're seeing it's just a mess now. All that shit is just falling apart, and that's a good thing. I said this book, the book's central argument is that institutional deception has corrupted Israeli society and government with Mossad. So, how are these the chosen people? See? So, let's go from there to, I looked it up, just Wikipedia, just plain Wikipedia, Israeli espionage in the United States. All right? It says, Israeli espionage in the United States refers to clandestine intelligence gathering and operations conducted by or on behalf of the State of Israel within the territory of the United States and or against the government of the United States. Despite a close bilateral alliance, multiple incidents since Israel's foundation that Israeli intelligence agencies such as Mossad, Shin Bet, Amman, and now defunct Lakam have actively collected American political, military, scientific, and economic secrets. U.S. counterintelligence officials constantly rank Israeli espionage as among the most active on American soil, alongside larger countries such as France, China, and Russia. But it's only one of these that you actually call your friend. You let everybody know that China and Russia are, you know, bad. But it's these Israelis that got you bent over a barrel. He says in 1951, Mossad and the Central Intelligence Agency agreed not to spy on each other, and U.S. and Israeli services cooperated closely since then. Nevertheless, there were strong indications afterwards of ongoing Israeli espionage against the United States, confirmed by the 1985 arrest of Israeli spy Jonathan Pollard, who they have since released. One of the most damaging security leaks in U.S. history. All right? And then it goes back to the 40s through the 60s, early operations. All right? It says Zionist operatives in the U.S. ran clandestine networks to obtain arms and information. During the late 40s, Haganah agents and sympathizers smuggled war material to Jewish forces in Palestine in defiance of U.S. embargoes. Investigations led to a few convictions, though most offenders avoided prison. Why does that not surprise anyone? These early operations laid foundations for an Israeli intelligence presence in America, a secret underground coordinated by a small board including Israeli diplomats and a roving Israeli troubleshooter. By the early 50s, U.S. authorities suspected numerous instances of Americans, often Jewish Americans sympathetic to Israel, passing classified information to Israeli contacts, though prosecutions were rare in those years. I wonder if the Rosenbergs, who were executed, supposedly, but I see here, let's see, does it mention them? Ah, James Angleton, of course. What was that movie about him? Oh man, oh, not the Constant Gardener. Hold on, James Angleton. James. Let's see, this guy here. Um, Maybe it'll give you the. Let's see. Maybe it'll give you the name. Look at here, Angleton with head of Mossad Global Operations, Mir Amit. Got his cowboy boots and everything on, motherfucker. Let's see. Oh man, suspicion of infiltration. Let's see if it'll give the name. I don't think, let's see. Damn it. Personal life and death. Let's see. Damn it. Legacy. Let's see. I think he died in the 80s. Where is that? I have to go back up to the top. Nope. Yeah, 87. So, let's see. Personal life and death, legacy. In popular culture, The Good Shepherd. All right, The Good Shepherd. There it is, 2006. Who portrayed him? Let's see, Matt Damon. Okay. So yeah, there's so much more in this. Let's see, scientific, and let's see, I'm still here in the 60s. Let's see. I'll put this in the description box, the link to this. This is just, your wiki. Let's see. Israel's drive to secure a technological edge, particularly its secret nuclear weapons program. Now we're getting into, if I don't think it's going to mention it here, but what happened with the JFK. No, it's not going to mention that. Let's see. As one of the possible reasons as to what happened to him. It says particularly its secret nuclear weapons program led to intensified espionage in the 60s. In 1960, Israel's Minister of Defense created the Scientific Liaison Bureau, which we just earlier came across, abbreviated LACOM, specifically to acquire scientific and technological information from abroad, especially from the United States. All right. A CIA report from that era noted LACOM gave top priority to collecting U.S. scientific intelligence. All right. And in '63, in the spring, going into the summer, May through June, Kennedy and what was the prime minister at the time, David Ben-Gurion, were going at it so hard. Ben-Gurion resigned, and then there were some other things going on about Kennedy with Executive Order 11110 with the Federal Reserve. It's people are revisiting that now and saying, oh no, there's more to this than we originally thought. All right, Pollard affair, we already went over that. That was in the 80s, and again, he's been released since. Let's just see. So let's see, Jonathan J. Pollard. All right. He's 71 now, so he spent 30, let's see, how long? There's that bastard there. Let's see. He was apprehended in 85, and in subsequent proceedings agreed to a plea deal. Pleaded guilty to spying for and providing top secret classified information to Israel. He was sentenced to life in prison for violations of the Espionage Act. All right, let's go on down. Here it is. Pollard was released from prison on November 20th, 2015. On November 20th, 2020, his parole expired and all restrictions were eliminated. On December 30th, 2020, Pollard and his second wife relocated to Israel and settled in Jerusalem. Of course he did. Because they all have that get out of jail, you know, maybe not totally free in some cases because they have dual citizenship. Yeah, they'll put on a show. But in this case, he did some years. He did, you know, yeah, he 30 years. But he's supposed to do life. Let's see. Let's go back. Let's see if I want to. Let's see. All right. Let's see what else we have here. All right. Because there's a whole lot. 1990s to 2020s. So we're, you know, this 30-year span here. Let's see. In the post-Cold War and post-9/11 eras, Israel has remained on the list of countries aggressively collecting intelligence in the United States. Notably, a 1996 CIA report released to Congress publicly named Israel, along with France, as being extensively engaged in espionage against U.S. interests. Throughout the 90s, numerous espionage allegations surfaced, but often did not lead to prosecutions. I wonder why. Could AIPAC and these other affiliated lobbying organizations have anything to do with that? Likely due to political sensitivities. Yeah, right. In 97, for example, news broke that a U.S. naval officer, David Tenenbaum, had unknowingly passed classified data to Israel liaisons during routine cooperation. The FBI investigated Tenenbaum, who is Jewish, of course, on suspicions of being an Israeli spy, but he was never charged. The case raised delicate questions of dual loyalty and ethnic profiling. There you go. In 2002, news outlets reported that federal agents had detained or questioned dozens of young Israeli nationals posing as art students suspected of spying on U.S. government facilities. A leaked DEA memo described a pattern of Israeli art students visiting secure buildings and even the homes of federal agents under suspicious circumstances. How about that? The DOJ never publicly prosecuted any espionage in that case, and some observers dismissed it as an urban myth. Yet, a 2002 Fox News investigation by Carl Cameron, and the Le Monde report lent credence to the notion of an Israeli surveillance network operating in the U.S. in the lead-up to the September 11 attacks. How about that? Some of them in close proximity to the later 9/11 hijacker. All right? Oh, man. One of the most significant spy cases of the 2000s was the AIPAC espionage scandal, 2004-2005. In this affair, Pentagon analyst Lawrence Franklin passed classified U.S. policy documents regarding Iran to two staffers of the pro-Israel lobbying group AIPAC, who in turn were accused of relaying the information to Israeli diplomats. The AIPAC officials, Stephen Rosen and Keith Weissman, were indicted under the Espionage Act, a virtually unprecedented prosecution of lobbyists for spying. The indictment alleged that Rosen and Weissman conspired to obtain U.S. defense secrets and deliver them to, whoever that is, the political officer at Israel's Washington embassy. Franklin, the Pentagon source, pleaded guilty in 2005 and was sentenced to 12 years, later reduced for unauthorized disclosure. However, the case against the AIPAC officials collapsed in 2009 when the Justice Department dropped all charges. Citing court rulings that made conviction unlikely, the court required proving the defendants intended specific harm to U.S. national security, a high bar. A side controversy erupted when it was revealed that Representative Jane Harman had been recorded on an NSA wiretap promising an Israeli agent that she would try to intervene on the AIPAC defendant's behalf in exchange for help securing a permitted committee chairmanship. So here it is, which is something that JFK was trying to, all right, get a grip on, was these people registering as what is it, FARA? Hold on. Let's see. FARA, which is the foreign. Let's see. Hope I did that right. Here it is, Foreign Agents Registration Act. All right, this is what Kennedy was trying to get them to register as. All right, is a United States law that imposes public disclosure obligations on persons representing foreign interests. It requires foreign agents defined as individuals or entities engaged in domestic lobbying, as in APAC, or advocacy for foreign governments, organizations, or persons, to register with the Department of Justice and disclose their relationship, activities, and related financial compensation. But these people have gone so long and have so much power now that they run this country. FARA does not prohibit lobbying or for foreign interest, nor does it ban or restrict any specific activities. Its explicit purpose is to promote transparency. There it goes. We can't have that. Promote transparency with respect to foreign influence over American public opinion, policy, and laws. To that end, the DOJ is required to make information concerning foreign agents' registrations and their disclosed activities on behalf of foreign principals publicly available. But they said, fuck you. And you wonder how they can get these hundreds of millions of dollars, such as Miriam Adelson did with Trump here. And all these other congressional Massey in Kentucky is in danger of losing because they've invested so much money into his opponent. Well, he had a substantial lead. Now he's got, just last I heard, just a 1-point lead. They want to get him out of there because he is in opposition to what they want to do, because he sees through them. This is what they do to people such as Massey. All right? So they have direct influence in America's politics. How can that? And all you hear is China and Russia. Hell, I don't even hear anything about France, but they say it was in print. I read it. Wow. That's going to do it. I think you get the idea. The other book is The Other Side of Deception by the same author, Viktor Ostrovsky. He was the handler, Mossad handler, for these weirdos in Mossad. These are what else can you say? These people are going down. It's like desperation is setting in. It's no telling what they'll do at this point. People are really nervous about them because they're getting their asses handed to them now, despite with America's help, that they may just use a nuke. That's what was my concern also. So with that, again, this is what we do here at Great Millstone. I hope whoever views this has been edified. And again, I hope that everyone remains circumspect out there. Keep your eyes and ears open, because things are happening with increased frequency. All right, we're down to the end now. So with that, until the next video, shalom.